All right, picture this. Way off the coast of a tiny Japanese island, deep beneath the waves, there's this massive geometric structure. I mean, it looks like something straight out of a movie. So the big question is, are we looking at a lost city, some kind of Atlantis of the East, or is it just an incredible trick of nature? Well, let's dive right into this fascinating mystery and figure out what's going on with the Yonaguni Monument. So check this out. Back in 1986, a local diver, a guy named Kihashiro Aratake, was just out doing his thing, looking for hammerhead sharks. And then he stumbles upon this. A whole series of these huge, terraced rock formations, about 85 feet down. And when I say terraced, I mean we're talking sharp angles, big flat surfaces, and what look, for all the world, like giant steps. You just don't expect to see something like that on the ocean floor, right? And you can imagine, a discovery like that immediately kicks off the huge debate that we're still having today. Is this thing the real deal? Are we looking at the actual ruins of an ancient civilization that got swallowed by the sea? Or is this just a mind-bendingly perfect example of what nature can do all on its own? It's a heck of a question. So let's break down the evidence for both sides.
Okay, first up, let's dive into the really exciting theory. The one that says the Yonaguni Monument is man-made. You know, a relic from a totally forgotten chapter of human history.
So, like we said, it all kicked off with that one diver's lucky find. But the guy who really ran with the whole lost city idea was a marine geologist named Masaaki Kimura. Almost right after it was found, he launched this investigation that would last for decades. And he's really the one who put this whole underwater mystery on the map. And Kimura, he was convinced right from the get-go. His whole argument boils down to this. These are not just random rocks. He called them, and I'm quoting here, man-made stepped monoliths. He basically argued that the geometry is just too perfect, too complex, for nature to have made it by itself. No way!
And get this, Kimura didn't just see a few steps. He saw a whole city down there. He actually mapped out what he believed was a full-on complex, complete with a giant pyramid, ancient castles, connecting roads, monuments, and even something that looked a lot like a stadium. The whole shebang.
Okay, so if it is a city, the next question is obvious. How old is it? Well, Kimura tweaked his theories over time, but he eventually landed on the idea that these structures were built sometime between 2,000 and 3,000 years ago. Back then, this whole area would have been above sea level. His theory is that some massive tectonic event, which is super common in that part of the world, caused the whole city to just sink beneath the waves.
But, you know, for every person who sees a lost city, there's a geologist with a very different take. So let's flip the coin and look at the other side of this debate. What does mainstream science have to say about these incredible formations?
Yeah, so despite how convincing it all looks, the overwhelming scientific consensus is that the Yonaguni Monument is completely natural. It absolutely looks man-made, I get it, but the geology seems to tell a totally different story.
So how is that even possible? Well, for that, we need a super quick geology lesson. The monument is made of sandstone, and this particular type of sandstone has two really important features. First, it naturally forms in these nice, neat parallel layers. Geologists call them bedding planes. And second, it's crisscrossed with a bunch of vertical cracks, or joints. The best way to picture it is like a giant block of wood that has a really clear grain and natural lines where it wants to split.
Okay, so here's where it gets really cool. Here's how those two features can build something like this. It basically happens in 3 steps. 1, you start with that layered rock. 2, remember, this area gets a ton of earthquakes, and all that shaking creates a really regular, almost grid-like pattern of cracks along those vertical joints. And then 3, strong ocean currents are constantly washing over it, wearing away the softer parts and causing these big, rectangular chunks to just break off right along those natural lines. It's kind of wild, right? It's like nature itself is the architect.
But wait, here's the real kicker. This is probably the single biggest piece of evidence for the natural theory. You don't even have to get wet to see this process in action. Right there on the shore of Yonaguni Island, there are other rock formations that look almost identical to the underwater monument, and everyone agrees those are 100% natural.
All right, so we've got the lost city theory and the natural formation theory. When you stack them up side by side, where does the evidence actually point? Let's get into the scientific verdict.
Basically, for every single feature that Kimura said was man-made, geologists like Robert Schoch have a pretty solid natural explanation. Those steps, they're just the natural fractures along the rock's layers. The walls, probably just big rock platforms that collapsed vertically when the stuff underneath them wore away. The roads, just channels carved by water. And those carvings, most likely just natural scratches and scrapes on the rock.
And the official position? Well, it lines up perfectly with the scientific consensus. The Japanese government's Agency for Cultural Affairs doesn't recognize it as a cultural artifact. Neither does the local government. And that's why they haven't done any preservation work, because from their point of view, there's nothing man-made to preserve. So, at the end of the day, the geological evidence is just really, really strong. And because of that, the claims about a sunken city are widely described as pseudo-archaeology. You know, it seems to be one of those cases where our human desire to see patterns and find lost worlds is maybe a little stronger than the straightforward scientific explanation. But look, just because it's probably not a lost city doesn't make the Yonaguni Monument any less incredible. I mean, not at all. Its legacy today is this really cool blend of hard science and modern myth.
And it's probably no surprise that this place has become a total bucket list destination for scuba divers. You've got the mystery, the powerful currents, and yeah, remember the hammerhead sharks? It all comes together to make this one of the most unique dive sites anywhere on the planet.
And that really is what's so powerful about the Yonaguni Monument. It exists right on that perfect line between what we know and what we want to believe. It looks so much like something man-made that it just taps right into our collective fascination with Atlantis, with lost civilizations, and with the idea that there are still these huge secrets about our past hidden just out of sight.
So yeah, the science seems pretty settled on this one. But the monument still leaves us with a really compelling thought. It's this powerful reminder that our own planet can create wonders that are so strange, so geometric, that they completely challenge our idea of what's natural and what's artificial. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other incredible things are out there, just hiding in plain sight?